I'm Richard Fitzgerald. This is Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city.
That business with scalability was very interesting to me.
I like building something that has legacy.
This week's episode is recorded remotely. It's Ramadan, but we're keeping the show on the road, and it was a really interesting conversation. It's all about the automotive industry, so car rental specifically. If you like this episode, you might be referred back to the interview with UDrive and eCar, who are in a similar category as car rental. It's a success story. It kind of evolved out of India, then into Dubai, UAE, Silicon Oasis. They never raised a penny. They're self-funded and they're profitable, and their app and technology is what makes them successful. So really interesting conversation. Some of those typical topics that we talk about come up, and we talk about the pandemic. We talk about expansion across the region as well. And Shoham has really good thoughts on what's happening with electric vehicles and the car industry. So enjoy the conversation. Welcome back to another episode of Dubai Works Business Podcast. This week, we're joined by Shoham Shah, the co-founder and CEO of Selfdrive. They are a technology-based car subscription platform that helps car manufacturers and dealerships to put out brand new latest car models on roads via renting and leasing. So today on the show, we're going to talk about how Soham and his co-founder and his team came up with Selfdrive, the company's growth post-COVID-19, the category, the industry, and also how Selfdrive have expanded across the region and their future plans. Good morning, Soham.
A very good morning. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Likewise, thanks a lot for joining. Appreciate you joining the business podcast. As I explained in the intro, can you just talk a little bit about when you started Selfdrive and how you came up with the idea?
So Selfdrive started back in India. We basically started here when we got an opportunity to work with certain corporates here, and they started requesting for a Selfdrive car here. Specifically, India does not have a market as such for the Selfdrive rentals, but we started looking at the technological aspect of it and say, how can we make a reservation possible on this? And from there, we've been building the platform, understanding, working with certain amount. But then pure play, the real launch, I would say, happened in UAE when we've been invited by one of the OEM partners stating that, okay, what do you do? We really love it in India. And why don't you just come and, look at what problems do we have here as such? And because it was a car manufacturer, the OEM really looking at it and they really understand this problem, which was the unsold inventory. And it's because UAE or the GCC as a region imports everything. And once the cars are imported, they really can't do much about it. They have to either sell or do something around with it. They have to put a discount. They have to make sure that the car moves to the road. And I would say he was a very futuristic guy who really understood then back in 2014, 2015 that he said, why don't you guys just walk in onto Dubai? So it was an invite for us in UAE. So we went, we packed our bags, we came in, we saw that. And I remember my first visit to UAE was directly going to the yard in the peaks, summers of June, and then said, okay, here's the parking lot, and you have these all cars that are only imported. And they're like, okay, what do we do with this? And what's the problem? He's like, we want to put these cars on road, and how? And we are looking for a non-brand agnostic platform, which basically would help dealers to add a independent vertical or a revenue, and the customers to really get a dealer certified vehicles. And that's where it all started coming. So we built the whole platform from there. And that's what we help currently is we've got around 18 car manufacturers working with us, close to 55 dealerships across UAE right now.
Okay.
On board sign up with us. And that's where the whole platform started. This is how it is.
Okay, amazing. I'll ask a few more questions around that, but just to understand. So typically the car industry would have dealers and the consumer purchasing a car would go to a dealer. if a consumer wants to rent or lease a car, they don't typically go to a dealer. They might go to a rental or a car leasing company. It looks like what you are empowering the dealerships is to almost have their own rental and leasing service as well via an app. Is that correct?
Correct. So we have two segments of the platform what we built over a period. So one is the B2C, which is a direct-to-consumer platform, which is the Selfdrive.ae, and which we have been exponentially seeing a growth on. The other what we built was a dealer network plugin, which basically plugs all the dealerships into one consortium for them to host their own cars and look at what they want to start in case they want. So a dealership primarily is meant to sell cars, but they never looked at it from a perspective that, okay, what do we do? And why does this problem exist? Now, let me just rewind and go back to it. Where does the problem really exist? Is not all the dealers or not all the models of the cars really sell. You can have a sell for a top line or a low line, probably a mid line. But then there are certain trim levels that will never sell. And that was a major problem for all the dealerships across the country and across all the brands practically. And they wanted to have a solution or a platform where they can host it all. And that's where it started to say that, okay, can we have an integrated solutions for this and let the consumers go in for. So now what happens is when a consumer or a customer looks at from a standpoint, basically comes at, okay, the cars are well maintained because it comes directly. 99% of the fleet is brand new because the dealer doesn't want to have the whole life cycle of the cars being kept like the car rental companies do. They want, because they buy the assets, there are finance charges attached to it. Then there are other charges of the operation and everything. Here, the tech is ready. They don't need to reinvent the whole wheel. Everything has been provided by us. All they need to do is manage the operations, which they already have. So they have the drivers, they have the washing bay, they have the maintenance, they have the insurance. They can also have accident repair. They also have a 24/7 roadside assistance. So all the elements required to fulfill a leasing or a renting company already existed. So we are trying to monetize it and help them grow at a scale because they have the appetite to even scale. Because they are importing these many vehicles, they have a genuine problem. The cars are standing, just getting depreciated. How many times we see an ad? It's a 0 kilometer or a 15 kilometer driven 2021 or 2020 model. That's all unsold stock. And these unsold stocks started moving down to our platform. So that's where the problem lied. That's where we found a solution, and that's where we are today.
Okay. So when did it start in India? You mentioned 2014, 2015.
So the India story basically started building the platform when, as I said, we started getting a request coming in from certain corporates that we were earlier doing the chauffeur-driven side of it. So it started back in 2011, to be precise, when we started doing the Selfdrive.in concept were in here. But the platform was very naive. It was just a reservation engine as such. We never built any of the modules there. We wanted to build the first company to have these infrastructure rated for India. It was a custom built system because India was a different market. We couldn't just take a copy paste from a US business model and just say, okay, we are doing it better. No, we had to do it from the scratch, which we did it as per the Indian, the law of the land and everything. We went through all of that. But what it taught us was speed and scale to do it. That really helped us in UAE.
Okay. And, just a little bit about India. So it's obviously a massive country with many different territories and huge population. What city did you launch in and how did you expand? And did you see, the UAE as just another sort of territory expansion, or was it a completely different market entry?
So we started back in a place called as Pune, which is around 175 kilometers from Bombay. That's the native place where we started from. So the next immediate expansion what we had was in Bombay, and then we went to Goa, which is the famous tourist place there are a lot of people travelers coming in. Then we moved to the north, which is Delhi, which is the capital of India, and there's around 200 kilometers away from the Chandigarh. So these are certain of the cities that we launched in, but we had a lot of we faced a lot of restriction while expanding because we wanted to be asset light and we wanted to expand by large. But when we started with the first company to start anyway, so there's a zero question of we trying to aggregate anyone. Automotive guys really didn't understand it that time. I'm talking 2011, 2012. There were no companies as such there. The first company to compete with us came in practically in 2015. So till that time, we were educating the crowd and we were still working. So it was very hard times, difficult times, I would say, to really understand why would it. So we changed our focus to international market as such. So in India, though we were in India and these cities, what we expanded to, we were still comparing, serving international crowd inbound. We were not really doing the local population here because people don't still understand. But why would you rent a car and drive it yourself? It's kind of the infrastructure or the traffic jams what you get in here, and why would you do that anyway? So a lot of people didn't really understand it. So we didn't waste our time in convincing them, why you should do it. But then we focused ourselves into inbound because India is massively has a good population, and we are spread all over the world, and hence Indians come back to India every vacation, whatever happens in. And there are also corporates that are there coming inbound for projects. So that really helps us to sustain the company over a period of time. UAE, by and large, for us was a new playground completely. I wouldn't say the systems were ready. We did actually spend in close to a year after we decided that we are going to move to and expand into UAE shores. We built everything from the scratch, ground up for the UAE market. I guess that has been the success story and the recipe for us is because we have not just done a copy-paste mechanics of our systems. We've really gone to the root cause of what people would want to have it there and then built around it. And that's where UAE has been a different market. India has been a very different market for us.
Interesting. Yeah, there's so much to talk about. I think, what you described was when you're a bit ahead of your times, you've got something that's on paper, a really good solution to a problem, but there's an awareness challenge and then a behavior challenge as well. And then, that's the kind of negative of being a first mover, isn't it? But because yes, you have a clean market to go after, but actually, if people enter later, you've already done a lot of the awareness and things like that. So 10, 12 years on, how is Selfdrive's presence in India now versus, are you still doing the inbound market, or are people more aware of the solution and are they using it? And are they still a bit behind for different reasons, the UAE?
India market after COVID has been actually consolidated. The reason for it is we have massive amount of taxes that have been increased, and it now a lot of it does not make any financial viable sense to rent it. So we are also into leasing. So we've got a leasing product which is going super strong. We're still working so we've improved our presence into the car manufacturing and leasing territory. We are now expanding into other cities out here. So that's the plan out here post-COVID for India. From the UAE standpoint, our focus by large has now been into the GCC expansion. India will take its own curve to mature. It has matured to the retail segment of it, but then, as I said, considering the cost of fuel, the taxation, the way they've gone up, the cost of product itself, which is the cars itself, has gone multi-folds up, and which has not been a real financial lucrative advice to really go and rent it, unless it's leasing, which is going great in corporates because they don't want to have the cars on their books, which goes great. But then retail, it's kind of been consolidated right now, deterministic. And it's been hit across. It's just not us. It's been across anybody who entered the market between 2015 onwards going up to 2018. There are barely any few players left in the retail segment that have been really been able to expand.
So you and your co-founder also moved to the UAE about 2014, 2015. So you see Selfdrive as a UAE sort of success story now.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would really say that we are a UAE grown company because we build everything from the UAE's territory for the country there, except the reservation component, which was already done for the India. That's the only component that came along or tagged along with us there. But beyond that, everything was custom made for the UAE market and the requirement of the dealerships and the consumers looking at what their specific requirements are.
Okay, and so you mentioned the number of dealers and partners that you have. What's the current team like? You mentioned asset light before, and of course with app technology,
Yes.
you're almost like a marketplace. You're almost like the middleman. What sort of team do you have in place, and how have you grown that within the UAE? How have you found building out the Selfdrive team here?
Right. So we started very small. We have we really started very small. We just started on one table in Dubai Silicon Valley. So that's where we set up in 2016. 2017, we went live. That's 1 year we took in building some stuff. But now we are a team size of say close to 40 people.
Wow.
And in India, we have a tech support. Back in here, we're close to 35 people here. So that's the team size right now. And we have a full-fledged support system, including a development center back in UAE also to have tech support in case anything required. Because it's just not app-driven. We have the verticals, whether it's in web, whether it's PWA, whether it's an application, Android and iOS. So we have opened all the funnel channels, making sure that it's convenience for the customers to access any mode of it, what they're convenient, whatever they require. So we are there.
Okay, amazing. And did you raise funds?
We are bootstrapped.
Wow, bootstrap profitable?
Very profitable, absolutely. We are profitable. We reached our break even in the first 2 years of our operations. And we successfully grew exponentially during COVID. We'll have a COVID discussion later, but then again, we've seen a great potential of growth here and we'll be profitable. Yes.
Does the revenue, majority of the revenue get generated from? Is it from fees? Is it from usage, or how does the business model work?
So business model is quite simple. We get these cars, which are kind of exclusive models, which are not there in available easily on rent-a-car. So that makes us very, very different from other rent-a-car companies. So anybody would come up and say, okay, I can get the same model at a different price point in rent-a-car. Heads up, yes, you can do that anytime. But what happens is when you start getting a dealer on board or backed up with you, what happens is there are tons of models that will never enter a rent-a-car segment. So the cluster or the category of the vehicles are very different. And that's where in the pricing is also very different. As I said, everything is ready at a dealership. That means the OPEX and the CAPEX requirement to run that kind of an operation is absolutely nearly close to zero because it already existed there with them. Having said that, there are no finance charges. There are no other fees of running multiple counters, which typically other franchisees or rent-a-car would have. So these costs really minimize the operation and minimize the cost of us to have a purchase. So we have a purchase rate that would come into us, and we basically have a markup fee that we basically see that, okay, to run these kind of operations, what we want to do, what would we charge? So there will be a small charging fee that will say there's a fee charger that is to be done that, and then the customer pays that. And why does the customer go with us is because these are the unique model that they will not see, because rent-a-car, all of them, you will see a certain level of models only been bought because they're looking at from their residual value point of view, from the utilization point of view, from the current demand of that vehicle make and model. But they are not really flexible of trying and experimenting to new car models or trying and experimenting towards, say, a crossover, say a hybrid version, even going up to an EV. So we are the first companies in 2017 to launch EVs in the UAE market. So the platform is also used by car manufacturers and dealerships to test models to see what is the market acceptance on these models. Can they go on the fleet segment? Can they go on the consumer segment? So there's a lot of analysis that goes, the data science that goes behind making it successful for a model, for a car maker to say, okay, this is great. Now we need to order more cars or import more cars on this segment or this these trim levels. So they all work on our platform for that.
Okay, and so just specifically, sorry about the business model. So from a B2C point of view, there would be a rental fee. From a B2B point of view, is there a hosting fee to have the inventory on your app, or how does it work?
No, we don't charge any hosting fee. It's completely free for the suppliers to come on board. We give them a complete end-to-end integrated solutions. We also have our own built payment gateway and architecture. So we built it from the scratch for us.
Wow.
I'll throw in some light on that. What does it mean? I'm of an opinion that you can't just take an e-commerce payment architecture and just throw into a service industry and say that, hey, listen, it works. It actually doesn't work. A lot of people in businesses would fail in case they don't really understand why is their business failing. Is not also because they don't really have a payment architecture of their own. They want to go in and cut short the wave by taking in the existing infrastructure and say, okay, this is what it is. But we, over a period of years of our experience, we realized very strongly that we need to have our own infrastructure for these things to go through. It also helps us in, having these dealers on board because end-to-end integration is super important for these, because it's all online driven. It's all cards driven processes. So we have that. That really helps in. So onboarding process is completely complimentary for the dealerships. We only charge the customer a small nominal fee. What makes interesting as a business model is because it's a long term, it's subscription based, which is a success story for the company in UAE, which is that like people tend to take it for 1 month, keep on extending till the time they wish like. And that's where we keep on making a small fee every month. And that's where our revenue gets generated. That's why we see that once we have an acquisition of a customer done, he stays with us closely 6 to 7 months with us. And then 6 to 7 months is a good amount of time that we monetize our cost of acquisition, cost of marketing and everything, and we can grow simultaneously.
Okay, interesting. So are you seeing, the people in the UAE who use your service from a consumer point of view, are there also, what's the mix between, a regular retail consumer and a corporate? Are companies leasing their vehicles through Selfdrive as well?
Okay, I'll take you to a product mix what we built. There's an interesting thing we did in a couple of years after launching UAE is we're building products for every target market. What does it mean? So we have something called as express reservation, which is basically daily, weekly. That's moreover targets towards the tourist population, that is the inbound population who are looking in for very, very short-term requirements. That's basically only daily, weekly requirements that any rent-a-car would do, but we also do that same. Then we have micro lease, which basically is 1 month to 12 month segment. Now, this is targeted over towards majorly expat population who are in the UAE. You've just imagine you and me entering into UAE, you would surely have an incident. We didn't go and buy the first car immediately. We took in probably a year or two to settle in, understand the laws, understand everything, and then, take that bet of having the first car that we want to have in UAE. Now, that's the target market, what we paint the pain point for the people. That is, okay, what happens when you enter UAE? You got a first job. You need to have the mobility immediately from day one. The first is your house and second is your car. That's what two requirements. It turns into a basic necessity immediately. So then we have the expat population that is for micro lease. That's one of the highest revenue generation for the company today. Then we launched in something called as digital leasing, which is a very, very new innovative product what we built. We wanted to cut short the timing of leasing, whether it's so we're the first company to also open doors to individuals. Before this, because we had the dealer network backup, it was very easy for us to do that. Before this, if you want to go down to any leasing company and say that, hey, listen, I don't want to have a car loan, but I want to lease a vehicle. I'm a serious customer. I want to take it for 2-3 years. They might not entertain you if your company is not registered with them. And it used to be super difficult. They were turning around a lot of customers back. We had this understanding from the dealer data, from the data network. What we already had, we were researching all the data science, looking at what is the footfall of the dealership, why they're turning around, how many people were getting approved for the loans. And similar to the case study, if you're new to the UAE, you may not have your Etihad bureau been set. Hence, you will not have a credit worthiness, and hence you will not get a car loan approved. Now, that's where we identified a pocket that was super interesting for us to say, okay, how can we turn this around? And we build a product around using a tech. So we said, we went to the drawing board. We had a lot of, going back and forth with options and all. But then what we created was the first digital architecture. We called it as Lease Pro. Now, what this Lease Pro does is giving you the option of registering a brand new car exclusively for you. You can select the trim level. You can select the color, everything as a customer. And you can take it between 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. Now, how does this work is earlier, in the old school manner, it used to take you around historically 25 days to 45 days, depending on the company that you're dealing with and the credit worthiness that they have it with the dealership and the documents of the company for you to get approval of the vehicle. We cut short that time to 7 days. And we use data. We use other options of eligibility criteria check for an individual as well as corporates to reduce the time to 7 days. So now, from the time you make a reservation online under the Lease Pro category, you get a brand new vehicle registered for you, compliance completed within 2 days of time. Dealership gets the approval on that lines, and the dealership registers the car and keeps it ready on the 7th day, where you can walk to the dealership, take the delivery of the car from the same way that you would have got your brand new personal car delivered.
Interesting.
So these are some of the differentiators, largely what we've created in the market today.
Okay, amazing. So just moving on a little bit from that, because it really does sound like a success story. You built it yourself, and it's obviously still a tech platform, and you've created a good few differentiators as well. It's a good few years in, but in sort of 2 years ago, March, April 2020, the pandemic happened. Most people were off the road for a few months. What happened Selfdrive then, and what decisions did you make?
I remember those dates precisely. 24th, we went into partial lockdown. 4th April, we went to 100% lockdown. I remember these dates very well because we and our team were practically figuring it out like all the others. Like, we don't know, nobody has gone through this. No experience would ever teach you what to do and what decisions to take. But having said that, we actually decided to do a decision of wait and watch. We didn't hit the panic button. We said that, okay, fine. Two things I remember we took a decision on was, first, we asked, so our phones were buzzing with clients wanting to return the cars. We did a simple maths. We had paid an X amount to acquire these customers, which is a cost of acquisition. If these all cars come back, anyways, we're going to be going back to zero. Like all the other companies thought about it. It's inevitable. It's going to go back to zero. We did a math in case we let them keep these cars. And they said, okay, let them do it for 1 month. In case the lockdown extends it for more than a month, this is a capacity of capex that we will be able to bear it. In case they don't use it, they are not able to drive it. No problem. Let them keep it. We'll not charge them, which is fair. You can't drive it. We're not charging you for it, but let's not lose the customers. That was a complete decision taken aback by saying, okay, we are ready to spend in case our dealer network doesn't support us. This was a decision taken by us as the company, as founders. We said, we'll look into the factor that, okay, how do we manage the cash flow? How would we manage the funds? Everything. But let's not lose the customers at day one. I remember we took this decision. So 4th went to the complete lockdown. The 6th, we took the decision of starting offering to the customers not to return the cars and will not charge them. We were down only by barely less than 10% of the total fleet size that really got back. That was because of that 2 days of decision making that we took in. Other than that, all the customers did keep the cars with them. We got the dealership, we spoke out to them. Certain dealerships did support us, stating that it is fair. We don't want the cars back. We are happy. We'll work out, what happens for a 1 month. And some of them we did not. He said, we want the cars back. They had certain permissions from the RTA that, okay, they can pick the cars from the customers then, which they did, which we had no problem. But then from where the hybrid versions, some of the dealers, we paid it from our pockets and said, let the cars stand there. Interestingly, what happened is the lockdown 100% only lasted for 1 month, which is 30 days. After this, it again went for partial reopening, which was 15 days, and again it reopened 100%. We didn't lose customers. The customers, 98% of them stayed with us, and everybody felt really supported as a supplier. So that created enough of us to explode in terms of our referral program that we created, and they referred so many customers that we actually grew by 380% post-COVID between July and the next year. So within that 12 months, we practically grew 380% of that. What also happened in post-COVID is buying a car become the last thing on the checklist. Because when uncertainty hits you, asset or depreciating asset is the last thing anybody would like to have in the checkbox. So they want to have everything immediately on the mobility. So we were the beneficiary side of the COVID as a company, where we understood that people are not going to be buying cars. Dealers understood it very quickly, that, okay, they're not going to be, for them to come back to the pre-COVID levels is practically 21, 22 right now. Some of the dealerships are claiming that, okay, they are now at the pre-COVID levels. But then, for us and them, both of us quickly realized that it makes a lot of sense for, to exponentially grow and use the fleet that would not be selling now. And we took that benefit. That made us the largest tech platform in the country today. and we have ever support from the customers. We've been trying hard to serve whatever we can at our best and increasing the team size, because we grew from, during COVID, we were a team size of 12. Proud to say we never deducted a single dirham of salary. We never fired anybody, or we didn't have any of the restrictions being imposed on them. We said, let's wait and watch. Anyways, things are going to go to zero.
Yeah.
If till the time we can afford to have the whole team size and we have that much of runway in our cash flow, we will keep them. If that never happens and we have second lockdown, or if we have the lockdown extended and anything, we go zero at day 1, we go zero at day 5. It doesn't really matter. So that was the decisions. That was the whole, the story of COVID and how we managed it.
Well managed, well done, and it's nice to hear of a company that thrived through COVID by level-headed thinking and decision-making. So congratulations on that. It's good to hear. Thanks for sharing. And to grow so well out of that as well, because clearly, your business is driving cars or people being on the road, and that's not the events business, but clearly you were impacted, especially during those months. Couple of questions around the category and the industry that you're in. I'll go through specific ones, but you're self-funded. It is about car renting. A segue from the pandemic. One company a global company like the incumbents for rental, Hertz, there was a very well documented story of them in bankruptcy and then back and impacted by this. How do you see yourself as a disruptor for the incumbent car rental companies who do so well at airports and do so well at market entry and things like that? And how do you see that as being a competitor to traditional rental companies?
Yes, we are in a segment-wise. Yes, we are disrupting them because their primary majorly focus lies into clusters, which is daily, weekly. But that's what's happened majorly at the airport. And they're close to, this is my understanding, the majority of the business comes from the airport, which is the inbound customer base. Their focus was never to look at the local population or serve the expat audience or go into subscription or they have the leasing, but they're only doing B2B leasing by much.
Yeah.
Individual leasing was not their focus. So we created segments, we understood where the loops were, and we tried to fill up those loops there. They basically are still asset heavy. They're buying cars. As I said, they would not go in for buying cars which basically do not make financial or do not make any profitable sense for them. So that differentiator will keep on happening and disrupting the industry, because you would want to drive a car which is not rent-a-car friendly in terms of financial trajectory. You will find it with us. Having said that, they also are one of the leaders in the market with the way they are, going forward with acquisition. And they have also realized that the subscription also makes sense, or individual leasing. So they are also opening it up. But then again, till the time, we backed up by the dealerships, we backed up by the deep pockets who can give us that kind of growth and scale. You understand, we have no car on our books. We don't have anything on our books, and we are at a scale of 3,000 vehicles on road.
Wow.
To do the same thing with having asset heaviness, the amount of deep pockets you will have to make sure that the finance charges, the banks is taken care of, and the RVs are taken care of, then the utilization has to be taken care of. There's a different maths. The whole calculation and the business model is completely different from what we do and from what they do. They're a different segment altogether. But yes, the target market or the consumer market remains to be the same, but it's a very different approach from two different verticals.
Okay, I get it. And you've explained it really well. And, as the conversation goes on, I'm realizing that you've, solved a few different problems at once from a consumer point of view, but also from a car dealership point of view and their inventory. But, that market, that industry is often motivated by test driving. And you explained that they would get a good idea of what cars people like and things like that. So it sounds like, a really well thought out business strategy. Another kind of competitor question who've also filled that gap of inventory, but do it in a different way, is the sort of rent but drive the car yourself. And in this market and on the Dubai Works Business Podcast, we've spoken to UDrive and eCar. Apart from the obvious where the person leases the car subscription and keeps it for a while and drives it themselves. And I believe that some of them are doing that as well. Would you see them as competitors?
Yeah. So from the eDrive and eCar perspective, we are very well aware about the kind of tech that's required behind it. We have that tech too because we have been doing that back in India for a certain amount of corporates. We used to do a plug and play, used to call a tap and go technology, where you have your tap or you access the key of the vehicle from your mobile devices and everything. Now, from the permanent rental side, it makes a good viable business if it's have a density of that kind of requirement coming by. But when we approached we have been looking at by one of the OEMs and the RTA to supply that kind of technology.
Can you just explain OEM in this context? The original manufacturers,
the car manufacturer, the original the car manufacturers and the dealer network. We were together partnered to launch the same during the eCar and the UDrive. It's 2016, 2017 modeling. The viability of it initially did not make, because there is a climate condition that keeps in your seasonality effect, where you have the 6 months, probably people don't mind walking down 2 blocks away to get a car, but during peak hot season, it's very difficult for people to really take that call just because I want to. People want everything at their doorstep. So deliveries make sense. All of those structures make sense. Taxis are efficient in Dubai and all of the region right now. Having said that, it started making and the cost parameter able to charge you at that level. These also started thinking, okay, you're doing all of this, but is it really solving a purpose on a day-to-day? Yes. And as it matures, as it grows, people have the acceptability. But I felt we are going back to the India segment where we have to educate a lot of people, train them doing all of that, and again requires a lot of cash flow. So I said, let's not, unless and until it's matured, let's not get into, because I have had my understanding of educating people and not really being able to scale. So my whole understanding was, if there's no scalability, I'm really not excited about that. I want to see 1,000 units. I want to see 2,000 units coming by from that product lineup, and real having problem solving elements where people love it. And that makes a lot of business model architecture support. Other than that, if there's something new, yes, it may get a limelight on that end. But if you go back and try to manage that whole show, it's a nightmare.
Okay, interesting. So there's so many trends and talking points about the automotive industry, the future of the automotive industry, and you provide them, whether it's electric vehicles, whether it's self-driving cars, and different trends in that industry. Speaking, before we get to those in detail, just specifically at the moment, and we talked about the pandemic, there seems to be a shortage of supply of, and secondhand cars are in high demand, and there's a sort of still a global logistics problem. Is that how you view that? How long is that going on for? And does that impact your business in any way?
Yes. So we've been lucky enough, I would say, that we really not felt that kind of intense shortage. Certain dealers did go completely stop sale, considering that there are no fleet available to put it across. And they have pre-bookings right now, which basically is that whatever the supply they're getting, they already pre-booked. So hence certain car models, certain brands have been not there on the platform, which we've been missing them out. But then because we've been having such a large consortium of dealerships working along with us and different brands working along with us, we have been in a continuous supply availability there. So on the platform, we have not seen a shortage. We've gone through the whole shortage last year. It started somewhere in the mid Q2, Q3. It went slightly excess because there's a massive demand coming because of the expo of the sales of the cars that picked up. But then, having said that, we have been lucky enough not to really, because we've been dealing with everyone in the market that's positive potential, sees a value proposition offered by Selfdrive. And having said that, no matter what happens, even if there are, say, about 500 cars or 200 cars coming in, they'll still keep 10-20% of that aside. And we already have been acquired kind of 2,000. Last year we were at 2,200 cars. They reshuffled again. So having those kind of customers again, we were always having fleet availability from that segment. We did feel a bit of crunch in early January and a bit of February, but then again, it was eased up very soon. How long would it last? It idealistically was being anticipated it would be till Q3 as of now. So that's the last update. What I have is post Q3 or mid somewhere around Q3, we're looking at things slightly by largely easing up because they're still launching a lot of new models, which means that there's a lot of potential coming in, that these models still will be working on their timelines and will make their way to the market inside.
Okay.
And having said that, we will still be getting those access of brand new vehicles because we are not worried about that one particular model. Like other car rental companies, we're like, okay, I only need a next model. When is that coming in? And we are not worried on that. We're like, any new model that is launched, we have it on that. We have it on our platform.
Okay.
So a lot of new car launches also have it. Happen on our platform. That helps us to get that market traction even. So
Interesting.
We don't think are not that hit that much.
Great. Yeah. That's good to know. So the automotive industry is over 100 years old. How big a seismic shift is what's happening at the moment with electric vehicles and investment and new players in the market? How, away from sort of your business and Selfdrive, if you were an industry analyst on automotive, how would you describe what's happening at the moment, what the big players are doing, and the size of the challenges that they face?
From my standpoint or viewpoint, I would say the market is currently divided into three clusters. The cluster one is the current existing one, which is the IC engines, which is the internal combustion engines, which currently the market where everybody's still buying those cars, everybody has those cars, and is divided the world into countries which are currently adapted to the EV segments, who has the infrastructure. Countries who don't have the infrastructure are still buying the IC engines. The second one is the electric vehicles transformation that is currently happening around the world, which is new cars, new car makers venturing into it. They're looking at the technology, they're looking at the ways of improving it, they're looking at understanding, okay, this could be the next big thing for them as an automotive manufacturer, that, okay, this could lead to the success story and the sustainability of their projects. The third is slightly distinctive, but there's still a lot of companies still experimenting, is I guess I missed on that name though, but let me come back to you. So typically three of them working on it. The third is, I'll get back. Let me give me some time. So one is the IC, the other one is the EV and the hydrogen fuel cells. The third one is hydrogen fuel cell cars. So there are companies enoughly investing into hydrogen fuel cell also, which they basically feel is going to be the sustainable way to move forward. So there are already cars getting launched in a couple of countries. UK has it, US has it, but there are in the certain clusters only. So it's going to be time wherein we are going to have these three from an elongated period of time, depending on the countries, the regulations, and the adaptability what we see from different countries, and how far are they ready to move into the transition from IC to the EVs or to fuel cell. Now, between fuel cell and EVs, they're currently between a slightly, EV has its lead though, but on certain segments, analysts do believe that EVs are neither that great cleaner, and it requires enough of same amount of production capacity or the same amount of not carbon neutral, real carbon neutral that is going in making all of that. Having said that, hydrogen fuel cell for a lot of companies still makes sense on those lines. So how would it move forward? I see a hybrid version coming in, like Toyota has approached, making all of their, majority of the segments now, existing segments are now offered in hybrid also. Hyundai has done the same thing a bit on certain models. So it's like, okay, take a test of it, feel how you like it. It is good fuel economy, the fuel prices are going up. So have a certain level of adaptability or acceptance there. And then infrastructure matters, because people, it's not the real cost of anxiety of people really having it. I really don't have an understanding that why people are so insanely crazy about anxiety of the range, because you have a gauge, even in the fuel, you see it going down to E, or there is a light stating that you're running low on fuel. Of course, you're going to pull over and get it fuel. Or you're going to be going down to electric charging station and putting it charge. So is it really that common sense don't exist? That's what people are really saying, that, if what in case we run out of charge? That's kind of a question, doesn't really make sense. The issue out here is the sustainability of availability of those charges in the infrastructure, where the amount of time it requires to really put it. We done a test run on EVs, where we launched EVs in the UAE market, and our experience was none of it actually happened. None of the guys really ran on a checks road without a charge and called us a backup stating that, okay, you run checks road and the car is run out of charge. That never did happen.
Yeah.
So questions that are being populated in the media are slightly very different. On the segment is, again, as I said, acceptability will be purely driven by the law of the land and the infrastructure that the government is ready to provide it. Other than that, car manufacturers will keep on innovating depending on where the market trends and demand, they see the numbers going in. And there would be a lot of new projects also going in launch, because the technology on the EV still is yet to come to a mature stage. It's still innovating. They're still figuring it out. I mean, Lucid is doing something different, where Tesla is doing something different in the battery technology, where VW or the BMW or the other car manufacturers on the old school network are coming up with a different technology altogether. So they are all innovative hubs getting created in a very different manner. Very difficult to say which one is leading the way. Numbers can say that, okay, EV Tesla is the leader there, but in other ways, it's very difficult to say that, oh, these guys will not lead because they understand. But one thing very interesting that came up is the new age companies that are coming in automotive, which is whether it's Rivian, whether it is Tesla, whether it's Lucid or any other company that are coming in, they made the whole car in center with a mind of an understanding of building it ground up from a battery tech. Whereas the others are already inside the IC engines and they have a different kind of a mindset. So if you look the way the cars are also made, they're very different. You have a frunk, whereas the others who are existing car manufacturers will not have a frunk in the front. They are losing out on frunk, but the frunk is only for the namesake. Yeah. So from the space-time point, how are they packaging it? Everything is very different. So it's going to be interesting time to see adaptability of people. I don't see anything unless they still don't keep on getting cost at a ridiculous value. And if it costs higher, it's going to be coming to renting and leasing segment, because that's going to be our job to make it more affordable and make it more accessible to the mass market. So definitely. And again, EVs don't depreciate the way IC engines do.
Oh, interesting. Well, thank you for sharing fountain of knowledge on the topic. Appreciate that. And clearly there's a lot of market knowledge and information, still to be shared. And there's a lot of way to go on this as well, on the technology side as well. But good to know. So we're running out of time, but I want to ask about your future plans. So Selfdrive is currently operating in the UAE and Bahrain, in Oman, but you're expanding to Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi, and then your future plans for UK and Europe. Why those territories, and how do you see the future expansion?
We strategically moved out once we had the UAE confidence, and these are the segments where the OEMs want us to specifically.
Okay.
So we're talking now to them with understanding where their pain points lies into, and they say, hey, listen, we have a dealer here, we have these countries that we want you to cover it, and that's where we are just going with the flow. We are looking at the market potential there. We're looking at the dealer supply chain, because it's super important for us to have the dealer supply chain intact. Other than that, the platform is just a platform. And we need to have a cohesive, collaborative understanding of the same. These GCC markets make a very sensible access point for us, considering the success story, what we've already seen it in UAE. The next move to the Europe undoubtedly comes because we see a potential there in the markets similar to what we saw it in the UAE segment there. And we have the OEM supporting us there, where they say that, okay, we need you there. When are you going to next launch it? So we already are in talks with the dealers out there in UK and in Europe, certain parts of it. As a technology company, we are able to move fast because we have created these products for the consumers, for the dealer networks. These kind of techs are already ready for us. Now we just need to probably figure it out. If what kind of a product is more suitable for the UK markets, and we just edit those and then fire it up there. So as a tech company, our job is to make sure that we are able to access larger markets and give that taste of success to them too, where consumers are able to do it, able to have that access to the dealer network, which we never had it till date.
Amazing. It'll be great to see a UAE company expand into those markets, and especially out of Dubai. So Shoham, we're out of time as well now. So thank you so much for your time. We'll follow Selfdrive in the future. And very well done, and best of luck with all the success.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a great pleasure meeting you and having a good chat with you today here.
Good to chat. Take care, and Ramadan Kareem. So he really knows his stuff about automotive, and you could tell that I didn't know as much, but always good to learn on these podcasts and these interviews. It's great to really see how a company like that can grow. I wanted to ask if we had more time around, his thoughts on, VCs versus self-funding, and at what point they would go for extra funding and expansion, and why other companies might get higher valuations and more media coverage, yet not be profitable like them as well. So, great success for what they've done, and wishing them well in the future. Thank you to Ali, who's been producing this podcast this morning, and Shahir, who arranged everything in the background on Dubai Works. If you are listening to it on audio, please do like, subscribe, and comment if possible on that app. And then also, if you're watching on any Smashy social media channels, please do watch on smashy.tv or the app, smart TV apps, or mobile apps as well, and watch any of our other shows. Thanks, and we'll be back again next Friday, 11 o'clock, for another episode.